What's up, guys? It's a little late on August 21st. It's going to be Dota Daily number 3. An introduction to Dota 2. This one's going to be all about team fights and finding order in the chaos that is the mid-game team fight. The last episode, we stopped somewhere around the 10-minute mark. A little bit earlier in most of the replays, maybe around 9:30. So we're basically going to be picking it up from there. So at this point in the game, hopefully you'll have some stuff. Maybe some boots. If you're a support player, that might be all you have. Hopefully, if you're a carry, you've got something else going for you. Maybe the start of one of your core items. If you're a mid laner, hopefully you've got some decent farm and maybe a kill or two. So basically, you're going to be starting to build towards those core items that really shape your hero into what they develop in the mid game and then the later parts of the game. We're starting to move out of the laning phase a little bit. Occasionally you'll lane a little bit longer, sort of depends on the game and the processes of what's going on. So the way tonight's going to work is we're going to be looking at 3 different sets of replays. The first one is going to be a professional game. It's going to be out of eCal. It's going to be EG going up against Complexity. And let's hop into the game and see what's going on. So let's see the lineup we have for both teams. For EG, we're going to have Malk on Chen. He's a support player. Chen has a couple of good abilities, which we talked about in Daily number 2. Universe is going to be playing Shadow Demon. This is another very hard support, and he's got a couple pretty unique abilities. The first one is Disruption. This basically removes a target from the map. It puts them in a little bit of this little circle thing. It banishes them where they can't take damage or anything like that, and then when they come out of it, it makes 2 illusions of them which are under your control. That lasts for 2.5 seconds. His second ability is Soul Catcher. This is what makes Shadow Demon a really common pick in competitive games. It causes a random enemy in an area to take increased damage. You can see the percentages right there. It's 20%, 30%, 40%, 50%. And it gets taken as pure damage, which gets no reductions, no armor reductions, no magic reductions, just pure damage. So let's say he banishes someone, and then he stacks Soul Catcher on top of it. So as soon as they come out of that, if you land an ability on the hero that's Soul Catched that does normally 150 damage, and it's level 4, that means they're going to take an extra 75 damage right on top of that, pure damage, no reductions or anything like that. His third ability is going to be Shadow Poison. This deals damage in a straight line, and it stacks up. When you stack it up, it does more damage per stack, exponentially. This graph, this one right here. And then this is to release it. And then his last ability is called Demonic Purge. It slows an enemy for 5 seconds, gets rid of all active effects on him, and then it does a bunch of damage at the end of it. Brewmaster is a very strong initiating hero. He's going to be very important to how these team fights develop. Basically, the most important thing about team fights is getting a strong initiation that the rest of your team can follow on. Brewmaster gets this initiation by getting a Blink Dagger. That's an item that lets you click the item, and then you click where you want to go up to a certain range, and then it lets you go straight over there. You blink in, and then he can use his abilities. He's got 2 strong initiating abilities. This is Thunderclap. It deals damage, and it also slows movement speed and attack rate of people in the AoE. Not a big AoE, only 400. And then his other very strong initiating ability is Primal Split. This is Brewmaster's ultimate. Splits him into 3 different pandas. And when those pandas have a bunch of different active abilities, and they have a lot more, one of them has a lot more health, one of them has a tornado, and one of them has extra damage. We'll go over those in just a bit when we see them appear. We're going to have Demon here playing Sand King. He's another very strong initiator. This ability is called Epicenter. It does a ton of damage with pulses after a 2-second channel. That means it has to be, he can't be stunned or silenced during that 2 seconds or move while it's ticking up. And then he can use Burrow Strike or a Blink Dagger. Burrow Strike, as you can imagine, burrows him through, does some damage, also pops a stun. And that's a good way for him to get right in the center of that fight. I'm going to raise this microphone a tiny bit. And then the last person on EG's team is going to be Lone Druid. He mostly does a lot of right-click. He's not going to be too important to these team fights as he doesn't have strong initiating skills or anything like that. Now we're going to move over to Complexity. Fluff's going to be on the Rubik. This is a strong initiating hero through Telekinesis, and then his ability to Spell Steal. Rubik can actually take abilities from the enemy. Whatever the last ability is that they cast, if you use Spell Steal on them, it takes it. So if that's Epicenter from Sand King, you can steal that ability and then use it for yourself. Very strong. Leshrac going to be played by Jo. Leshrac's not that strong of an initiator unless he's got other abilities to set him up. We talked about him in episode 2. He's got that split earth stun. It's very good. Anti-Mage, not really an initiator at all. Just a hard carry. Going to jump in those fights and do right click. And now here's the big initiator for this team. It's going to be Hannah Montana on the Beastmaster. And he is banished right now, so I can't even... Oh, he's got a bug over his head. But this is Brewmaster. That's weird that it's like that. But this is Brewmaster. He's got a banish effect over his head. This sometimes happens when you're looking at replays. But this is a very strong initiator just because of Primal Roar. This is a stun, 3-second stun, that also does a bit of damage in a decent radius. And we'll see that come into effect in a bit. And the last person is going to be Ice Mike. He's going to be playing Lich, and he's got one strong team fight ability. It's going to be called Chain Frost, and that just bounces around, does a ton of damage, bounces on everything, and the jumps are 7 times and increases his damage as you go up. So that's the heroes that we're going to be working with for the first replay of today's daily. So the other things that are very important to note about team fights is being able to sustain through it. You have to always keep this in mind. Let's say you have a team which only has several bursts and doesn't have a lot of staying power. Staying power in a team fight is going to be defined by someone like Leshrac, who has abilities that can sustain for a very long period of time, something like Diabolic Edict, as well as Pulse Nova, or someone who does a lot of sustained right click like this Lone Druid, things like that. If you have a lot of staying power, you're going to want to get items like pipes, like BKBs, to get through that initial burst of damage from the enemy team so then you can overtake them. That's a pretty basic concept in team fights. That, coupled with initiations, can get you through the very, very, very basics of the site of team fights.
Radiant's top tower is under.
So let's hop into this game. We're going to be concentrating on this bottom lane for the beginning portion. And this annoying sound is not going to go away. I'm sorry about that. But it's going to be Universe here on the Shadow Demon and Bulba on the Brewmaster. And we see a couple heroes here from Complexity moving up towards them. And we also see Malk coming around the back with Chen. So we'll see what transpires between these two, because there is going to be a team fight here in about a minute. We're going to move forward just a little bit. And there's something very important about the mid-game which I actually haven't mentioned yet, and that is teleportation scrolls, town portal scrolls, which we talked about in game number 1. Those let you transport to an allied building, or teleport, and they're unbelievably important in the mid-game, and you're going to see why in just a second. So here we have Universe and Bulba looking pretty strong against Hannah Montana. He doesn't have too many items right now. He has completed his Soul Ring as well as the Arcane Boots. Those are two pretty core items for him, and something he's going to want to get up pretty quickly. So he's got those at 10 minutes, so he's in okay shape considering he was in the hard lane. And now Hannah Montana here is going to move up. And now this is when we were talking about in the laning phase, he could be in a little bit of a weird position right now. He's very far up. There's the Demonic Purge as well as Soul Catcher and Clap. And there's a Roar. Okay, stop. Back up a tiny bit. So what happened while we were looking down here? There's got to be a reverse on this thing. Okay. So let's go back and look really quick what happens here. So we see Hannah Montana getting caught out. And right now, already, 2 TPs coming in. So now instead of just being Hannah Montana down here, potentially getting absolutely slaughtered by Universe and Bulba, there's 2 people TPing in. And now a third. So now there's 4 players down here. So Hannah Montana is going to counter-initiate. He uses that Roar. Roar is going to be the start of this fight. It keeps Universe over here. Alternatively, Demon also came in, and now he's going to use that Epicenter. And not going to get it off. So that's very important right there. Also, they saw that Demon was in the process of channeling up that Epicenter, right? So they realized they absolutely had to stop that, because if that had gone off, it would have been very, very, very hectic. Fluff then stole it. And look, now he's got that Epicenter. going around. And Complexity, after looking like they were completely screwed, wins that fight. All of that is because of TP scrolls. Bulba and Universe are going to make it out of there. But now Complexity is in a much better position in this lane. They've got a Leshrac here. He can help them push down this tower. And that's a pretty successful team fight. But all of that was made possible exclusively because of Town Portal Scrolls. Without Town Portal Scrolls, they would have been in a really awkward position. Hannah Montana probably would have just died. And EG would have won the fight. Very important. Another mid-game sort of a responsibility is going to be to keep your towers alive. We see this tower is already gone. Down here, this tower is still alive. Even after Complexity won that team fight, they chose not to push forward. And all of these towers are still up for Complexity. How do towers interact with team fights? Well, at the lowest level of pubs, they kind of don't. Team fights and tower pushes usually do not coexist. They sort of just both happen. But once you get up to higher level games and pro level games, a team fight almost always is going to equal a tower push. So let's say EG wanted to fight Complexity right here. If they fought and EG won, they would be pushing into this tower and killing it. Now, when you kill this tower, you get 200 gold per player, and then the person who gets the last hit on the tower actually gets more than 200. They get in somewhere in the vicinity of 500. If no one gets the last hit, it's just 200 for everyone. So usually you want to try to have a hero there to get that last hit. So just a couple minutes, there actually is going to be a fight over this mid lane. So we're going to fast forward just a bit.
Dire's bottom tower is under attack.
Alright, so now these heroes have been here for a bit. There's now 4 Complexity heroes squaring off against 3 EG heroes. So EG doesn't want to directly engage that. We see Demon Burrow Strike Gun on Hannah Montana, try to get him to back off, but now look, Complexity is pushing as hard as they can at this tower. Not as hard as they can, but they're pushing at this tower, and they put out a lot of good damage with Leshrac. Now, EG knows they need to defend this tower if they don't want to just give away 200 gold to all the players. We're seeing the Shadow Poison get stacked up here. That's the ability from Shadow Demon. See these little numbers? That's the amount of stacks there are. And now, we see Complexity moving back in. There's a TP. There's a Purge going on Jo. Now, Bulba's here. This is one of the strong initiators. Remember how I said Bulba was a strong initiator? Here, we see Chain Frost sailing right at him. And what is he doing? He's starting his Primal Split. If he times this perfectly, he's not going to get hit by it. And he does. Look. This was actually unbelievable play. Right here, he was able to stop the Lich ult from bouncing around. With that, he now also has these 3 pandas, which we're going to talk a little bit more in depth about now. The Earth Panda has a stun right here. It's a 2-second stun with a 7-second cooldown. That means you can use it twice over the duration of the first pandas. Also a spell immunity and Pulverize, which is damage in a small radius. Not a big deal. Fire Panda has permanent emulsion that's similar to Radiance. It's just burn damage around him. He also does a lot more damage than the other Panda, you'll notice. 77 versus 40. And then we have the Storm Panda, the blue guy. He's got Dispel Magic, which dispels magic, purges buffs, as well as debuffs. And then he has a Cyclone. So the way these two abilities interact, if you Cyclone someone, they're up there for 6 seconds, but with Dispel, you can time exactly when they come down in order to line it up with other spells. So the combination of this stun as well as Tornado make him a good initiator, and these have some pretty decent health, and it makes 3 of them. So when you have all 3 of these guys, obviously it makes more targets for things like this Lich Ultimate, and it makes him a very strong initiator once he gets Blink Dagger. So now, we see them moving on this. He's moving forward and being aggressive as possible. There's that one stun right there, and he uses Dispel Magic and brings him down, but there's no follow-up ready from Demon. A little bit of miscommunication there. So that was a little bit of a blown attack. Now, Demon's going to get roared on and killed immediately. This is the difference between pro games and pub games. In a pub game, Demon probably would have just walked away right there. In a pro game like this, immediately they're going to take advantage of that and kill him. So if you see someone in a team fight lagging behind, That's when you want to attack. When a team is retreating, that's the perfect time for you to move on them, make your moves, and try to kill someone, because usually they're not grouped up tightly and things like that. Now you see them moving forward as they're retreating. They get another kill on Chen. And Complexity wins the fight again.
Radiant's bottom tower is under
That time, EG tried to reinforce, but it was a little late. So let's go back a little bit and watch that one more time, and maybe see where they fell back. Now, the tower's already... The biggest thing here is that the tower is already gone. So, when... Okay, stop. So, it's 13:24 right now, and we clearly see that there are several Complexity heroes moving aggressively on this tower. Bulba is all the way down here, and he knows he's going to have to use a TP to get back. But he instead waits a little bit until the tower is basically already dead. This makes their initiation a little weaker. He could have probably moved in right now with Demon, and this fight probably would have gone a lot better for EG. Universe TPs away at the beginning of the fight because he uses his Purge as the initiation. So basically what I'm getting at here is they're not initiating as a team. When you initiate into a team fight, if you just do it with one person, he's probably going to die. He's probably not going to make it. You need to move as a team. This is why DotA is much more about teamwork than one player. If one player moves against a whole team, he's going to get killed every time until he's unbelievably strong. Let's move forward a bit. We saw the result of that fight, and now this is the chase. This is the important part for Complexity. This is where they get a lot of their kills. One down, and they're not going to be able to catch Bulba. Now we're going to move forward to one final fight for this game. Already 22 minutes in, Jesus. Sometimes these take far longer than I anticipate. So we see a lot of movement going around. At this point, to give you guys a baseline, there's a very small XP advantage for the Dire, and a okay sized gold advantage. That's Complexity. So they're at a slight advantage right now. The other thing about team fights, which is pretty important, is that if you initiate a team into a team that has either one, much higher experience than you, meaning they've won several prior fights, or two, has a much higher gold lead than you, and this is the team fight I was actually looking for down here, a much higher gold lead than you, chances are you're going to get killed. You're going to get absolutely stomped if there's any sort of significant advantage. So the way you mitigate this, there's a couple different ways. With good wards, that's these guys that give you vision. We talked about these very briefly. You can see when one hero moves out of position and moves away from the rest of the team. If something like that happens, you're going to want to move on that hero and try to get a kill on him. This is how you overcome those deficits. You pick off heroes one at a time until your team's even again. Remember that Dota is a big game of tug of war, and that tug of war gets determined by your experience as well as your gold. So let's move forward a bit, and again, we see a team being very aggressive on the retreat. And they're going to catch IX Mike here, and he's going to go down. Not really a team fight, but I believe there was a failed initiation there. We can back up just a tiny bit. So Fear's chilling down here. He's got some decent items considering what time it is. His farm could be a bit better. Actually, no, it really couldn't. But there's the initiation. The Lich ultimate is bouncing around. And this is one of those fights that just looks really weird. So we're going to back up and watch it one more time. So again, we have Fear here, and then we have several heroes here moving in from Complexity. Hannah Montana, IX Mike, and Fluff. Way back here we got Jo. And we're going to see Hannah Montana move in, and there's the initiation right there. And look how the rest of the team is ready to go. They're poised, they're all here, so they pop the roar, and then there's an immediate TP in by Demon, the Sand King. There's the follow-up by Lich. He saw the TP coming in, so he wants to use that. And Demon again fails to epicenter. This is another extremely important part of this team fight. It's not that he didn't try, but watch right here. We're actually going to slow it down to halftime. So here's Demon. Burrow strikes over and immediately starts to channel the epicenter. Look how close it is to being done. Oh my god. 0.1 second. And Fluff lifts him up using telekinesis. See how he's not really in the same position now? And that stops it. Now, if that had gone off, there's 6 pulses of 110 damage. Do that math really quick in your head. 660 damage. That would almost kill Hannah Montana after magic resistance. About a third health for Jo. That would almost kill IX Mike. Like, that's an unbelievably huge amount of damage. And at that point, perhaps Fear could have gotten his bear in position to get some more kills. But instead, he just dies. Fear resummons the bear to try to pick up a kill. And then runs back. Smartly. And now we have Bulba here. And Bulba's going to initiate while they're running away. Again, if you can initiate on a team when they don't get enough damage off on you that you still have a couple heroes alive, when they're running, you can almost always pick up several kills. This is when you want to move on your enemy. So let's move forward again. This is going to be actually the last team fight. This one doesn't really happen. I'm just going to move forward a little bit in this replay. It's a little bit later. There we go. Alright, so what's the situation here? There's a battle going on over Roshan. Slow it down. And Complexity wants to kill Roshan in order to get that extra life to win those other team fights. Roshan is another way you might be able to get an advantage in the next team fight. With an extra life, obviously, you have essentially one extra player. So we see Complexity again, initiation from Hannah Montana, and Chen immediately sends him back. Now Demon is moving on these heroes with Epicenter, and this is a very strong initiation. He catches 2 heroes as they're running away. Lich ultimate comes in, Hand of God from Chen. And there's a pretty decent fight there, but no one really dies. Now Bulba's going to get caught again by Lich, and he doesn't have split this time. All that EG has to rely on is the right-click damage from Fear, as well as that great ultimate that Demon threw in. Oh, is he going to get Jo? So close. Here's another very important part of team fights. Right there. What the hell was Fear doing up there? I don't know. Let's look. Overextension is what I'm getting at here. Overextension is when you move beyond your means in a team fight. You go further than you should into the enemy and they kill you. Demon, there's the very nice epicenter, almost killing Jo. And Jo buys back into the game. Immediately TP's back. So Complexity wants to win this fight. Here they are trying to catch out Bulba. They know he doesn't have split because he hasn't used it yet. And he gets sent back as well. Fear able to grab a kill. Now Fear is going to be chasing Jo, but he has extremely low health, 300, and he's on the way to try to kill Fluff. Alright, watching it one more time. We're just going to concentrate on Fear. Let's look at his player perspective here. This is Fear's cursor, not mine. And we see him moving up. He knows he's going to get Jo, and then he comes back. And he's controlling the bear right now. And then he moves forward, and that was a misclick. So that explains that overextension. He was controlling the bear and himself at the same time, and as a result, he died. So, you can see if you accidentally move into the enemy after a fight's over, they can still kill you. You're going to be very low, and that's called overextending. Alright, so now we're going to jump into another replay. This one is going to be a pub replay. Basically going to be what not to do. And I got to get the replay ID here. jump in. And this is just a pub. We're going to be loading up. Dun-dun-dun, downloading replay. Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. All of these dailies are going to be on my YouTube. It's What Is Hip Dota 2. This daily is not at its normal time. The normal time is 3 p.m. Eastern. The reason I'm doing this one at this time is I was busy trying to find a place to live earlier today. Was moderately successful. This replay is not downloading. Go. 1% left. But you can subscribe to my YouTube to keep up to date with ones that you miss in the live stream. You can also add me on or like me on Facebook, and you'll get updates on there as well as on my Twitter. All right, we're into this replay now. Loading it up, and we're gonna move far into the replay as quickly as possible. Alright, let's jump into this. And this one, there's going to be two main fights that we look at. And when we get closer to that point, that's not really a team fight. That's more of just a terrible play. Oh my god, terrible play. Alright. Okay, so we're coming up on this team fight right here. So let's just go over the heroes really quick. For the Radiant team, it's going to be Skeleton King, Templar Assassin, Shadow Fiend, and what is this team? You can tell this is a pub because they have 4 carries. An Anti-Mage, and their last is going to be Undying, who really is still sort of a carry. The other team has Clockwork, Lion, Invoker, Marana, as well as Doombringer. Doombringer hero we have not talked about yet. It's got a couple abilities which are really complicated. Well, not really complicated. The first one's Devour. It's going to consume an enemy or a neutral creep, and it gives you the ability that they have. Second one's Scorched Earth. It's just an AoE damage. The third one is Level Death. This is the confusing one. So it does damage based on a multiple of the enemy's level. First level multiplier is 6, so that means it does damage at level 6, 12, 18, and 24. Second one is 5, so 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. The third one is 4, so that's 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 3, 3, 6, 9, blah, blah, blah. You guys know. Okay, so that's that ability. His last one is Doom. It's a damage over time as well as a silence, and it lasts 13 seconds and does damage per second as well. This is one of his best abilities, but has a really long cooldown, 110 seconds, so you pretty much have to make it do something every time. Undying, also sort of a weird hero. He's got Decay, which takes enemy life away as well as stealing strength. Soul Rip, which is damage and heal based on the amount of units around them. Tombstone, which puts down a tombstone and makes zombies spawn that slow you and damage you. And then Flesh Golem, which turns them into a big angry zombie that has a more health and then as well as a damage amplification aura. So let's move forward a bit and see why is my camera not working. There we go. So, what's going to happen here is the Dire is going to really bungle the initiation. And when you bungle the initiation of a team fight, you sort of almost always lose it. So here they are moving forward, and they get caught extremely out of position. We saw Lion try to start the team fight by using his Hex. But then the Shadow Fiend came over and started right-clicking on his face. Look how much damage he's taking. Takes a raise and immediately dies. There's one hero out. Here's Anti-Mage moving forward, and then he just dies to Anti-Mage. Or Marana moving forward, he dies to Anti-Mage. And now we see the Radiant with a really great opportunity here to push. So the proper response for this is to wait for all of your heroes, all of them, to come back so you can fight as a team, especially because we can see they're already at a pretty major disadvantage. 5,000 XP and almost 10,000 gold. That's a huge disadvantage for 12 minutes. 13 kills to 3. So if they tried to not fight them 5v hopefully less, not 5v5, they'll probably lose that fight, but 5v hopefully less, you might be able to take the fight. But instead we saw this Doombringer sort of meander his way around here, and now look what's going to happen to him. Everyone's going to kill him. Oh god, just dies. Templar Assassin has a huge amount of right click burst damage, and he immediately gets brought down. Now there's still a push forming, and again we see Clockwork almost get caught out immediately again. And now Invoker is throwing down some abilities which really just scare the enemy. They don't hold them down for a fight to start. So they backed up a little bit, they reformed their thoughts. Lion is able to turn a kill, but now many more heroes are here. Well, it's about even now, but there's much more stronger heroes here for the Radiant than there is for the Dire. This is an overwhelming failure. And then Doombringer decides to come back. He's the only one here again. What is this Doombringer likes being here by himself? And now he's probably going to die again. Clockwork's going to die. Now Doombringer's going to die. Yep. So that went about as bad as possible for the Dire team. And why is that? Well, besides the fact that they're under-leveled, they're under-farmed because of the fact that they just have a huge disadvantage, they trickled in one by one. Let's think about an analogy here. Let's pretend... What's a good analogy for this? Okay, here we go. Let's pretend that it's raining outside. And it's like sort of drizzling a little bit, but you have this nice little umbrella. It's a small umbrella. It's like one of those ones for drinks, the cocktail ones. So it's not actually protecting you really, but it's raining so little that you're able to protect yourself with this little umbrella. This is you being under-leveled and under-farmed. So your umbrella is not the right size. It's very small. Okay? Enter a bucket. Someone walks up behind you with a bucket. If they dump that bucket on your head, you're gonna die. You're under-leveled. Okay, well, you won't die in real life, but in DotA, for the sake of the analogy, in DotA, you're gonna die. So when that bucket gets dumped on you, you're not gonna get any protection at all. So basically, you can't trickle in. That was a really bad analogy. It didn't really make that much sense. But here's what I'm trying to get at. If you trickle in and you only have a very small defense, and you're up against a small defense, you're not really going to do anything. You need to dump... Damn it, that sounds terrible. You need to go at your enemy all at once with your entire team. If you don't, this is what happens. They might have a little bit better coordination, and then all of you get picked off over and over again, and you only magnify the enemy team's advantage. So, we see a huge disadvantage here for our friends, the Radiant team. This zombie is pretty large. Or our friends, the Dire team, they're the ones that are at a disadvantage. Lion has gauntlets and a wand at 14 minutes. Mirana's got some stuff. That's good. No boots, though. Doombringer has Bupkis. He opted for the Hand of Midas build, so he's going to be extra useless for a while. Invoker has Face Boots and Embracer and a wand. Not terrible for the 14-minute mark. He's doing pretty well. Clockwork doing equally okay. And we are going to see another weird little skirmish here. And this is actually a good... That was a good initiation by the Dire. Now, why did it take them so long to do that? I have no clue. But let's back up a tiny bit. There's only 2 heroes here. 2 for the Radiant. And 4 heroes, oh my god, that's more than 2, come in and start attacking them. Now, the good news for them is that the Mirana is going to catch the Undying. But the bad news for them is that Anti-Mage is such a son of a bitch to fight against that he blinks away and leaves. But they had the right idea. They opted for the bucket approach rather than the slight trickle of rain. They brought almost all of their heroes in to fight against a smaller number, and they were able to grab a kill from it. Now, if they keep doing this through this game, then they might have a chance to come back. That's the only way you can come back when you're at a disadvantage. Instead, what they actually do is just throw away everything and lose. But That happens in pubs. No worries. You're going to lose games when you have a big disadvantage in the beginning. It's the hardest place to play in Dota. Playing from behind is extremely difficult. And we're going to move forward a little bit.
Dire's bottom tower is under attack.
And then this is going to be a good example of what happens when you initiate without the rest of your team. Lion and Clockwork, both very strong initiators, are going to start on this Anti-Mage, and they get a nice stun hex combo, as well as the battery assault, which gives them mini stun. But Doombringer isn't paying attention. If Doombringer, oh wow, that was a miracle Sunstrike to get that kill. So that ended up being okay for them, but that probably won't happen in a normal game. And now we see another nice initiation, hook in, as well as the cogs. And the Dire team is sort of doing everything right now, except there's only 2 of them. When there's only 2 of them, you probably lose. And Doombringer actually disconnected, so that's the reason why he was not part of that fight. But you can see where this replay is going. Now for the last replay of the day, as we are starting to wrap up the daily, we're going to check out another pro match. It's going to be an eCal game. Yet again, which was a really great NA tournament. You guys should check that out. It's going to be pot and bottom going up against Complexity. And I'm getting all of these replays courtesy of my lovely eCal ticket. I definitely encourage you guys to buy tickets for the tournaments that you enjoy watching. It gives you a really great basis for analysis, as well as just enjoying, because you can still listen to the commentators. You get the perfect like quality, because it's just the game. Things like that's very helpful. I have a couple tournament packs, and I plan on buying all of them at the point when I am not poor as dirt. So pot and bottom versus Complexity. Let's move forward into the game a little bit. And this game is not too long. And this is a Captain's Mode game, but we're not going to talk about that right now. Instead, we're just going to skip forward in the replay to the 14-minute mark. Shout out to my team for organizing a daily when I'm completely unavailable all day. I love you guys forever. Let's pop to the free camera view. And this is where the fight's going to be going down. All the way up here. Let's take a look at the heroes really quick. For Complexity, yet again, we're taking a look at one of their replays. I really like their playstyle. This Hawk. In the replay, the Hawk has the boar model. And the... These are really funny. Replays are funny still. We're going to have TC on Lone Druid. IX Mike going to be playing Vengeful Spirit. He's another great initiator. Invoker, one of the strongest initiators. I didn't really talk about him too much in the last game because for some reason he kept dying before fight started, which was not great. But he's got a couple really strong initiating skills. Tornado is definitely going to be one of them. That shoots a tornado with a pretty decent radius, 200, through the enemy camp, and it goes for a very long period of time and throws them up in the air. Cold Snap is a way to... It's like a bunch of little mini stuns. The more you level up your first couple abilities, the better. Stuns them more. We're going to have probably an episode just on Invoker in the pretty near future because he's really fun, and I don't think he's as scary as everyone thinks. Now for the opposing team, Han and Vadim, we're going to have a Leshrac, a Chaos Knight who has a very strong guaranteed stun, Sand King, who we've already talked about, and Morphling. He's a very hard carry, and we saw him in episode 2.
Top tower is under
So now moving forward a little bit, we're going to have a fight over this top tower, and there's the initiation here by pot and bottom. We have... Okay, look at how strong this initiation was. They go in with Fogged, with the Epicenter. He has a Blink Dagger. Then they also have Chaos Knight moving in. But Jo throws a bungle in the initiation with Tornado. By having the Tornado throwing in there, you can completely mess up everything that your team was trying to accomplish. Now notice that there are a couple of heroes missing from this fight. A support and a carry. And there ends up being 2 heroes down for pot and bottom and 1 hero down for Complexity. Oh, that's unfortunate. And Complexity able to catch the better of that fight. And where is this Morphling? He's over here. So now there's only 3 heroes up for pot and bottom.
Dire's top tower
And
is
Complexity is
under
moving on the mid lane. Now we have a TP over by Leshrac, but he just went in all by himself. Look at all the heroes that are here. There's 5 heroes. He's going to get caught out immediately and go down. So this is another good example of my trickle versus bucket analogy, which sounds so stupid, but I'm going to keep referring. Oh my god, the overlay. Okay, we have to back up. We have to back up. This wouldn't be a what is if thing if I didn't completely mess up the overlay really bad. So let's move forward really quick. This is that Chaos Knight I was talking about. Here's Leshrac. Invoker right here. Alright, now let's move forward again. I'm glad I didn't just do that for like 10 minutes and then figure it out. So, here's that last fight that we're going to see one more time.
Radiant's bottom tower, Radiant's middle tower is under
Well,
attack.
for the first time for you guys. Alright, so here's Fogged with the epicenter, and now he blinks in, gets the better of IX Mike, sneaking as well with the strong initiation, and there is the reverse initiation from Jo. That gives him the advantage in this fight, able to bring down 2 heroes for 1, favorable trade, and now Sneaking is on the run, and he gets sent back by Chen, keeping him safe as well. But now the important part of this fight is when they rotate here towards the mid lane. So once they form towards the mid lane, we're going to see, surprise, surprise, Leshrac going to TP in right here, which is what I was crying about right before I realized that. So here is the TP. Now, on what planet did this seem like an okay decision for him? Let's look from his perspective. Everyone shifts over. Okay. So right before he moved in, he was able to see some decent stuff. I mean, he should have seen all of them here. There was no reason for him to move all the way over. And as a result, he's going to get absolutely bursted down. So there's another hero down. Their pot and bottom here is trickling in. Now, Fog moves in. And he's going to be safe for the time being. And we also have Morphling here. So, there's essentially 3 heroes going up against 5. That's not a good fight at all. Pot and bottom, I-2000 makes it out. Tides of Time is going to pay as a result. But you can see from this replay the sort of mistakes that vary from pro games to real games. In pro games, the mistakes are a lot smaller, but pretty much always end in the same thing, with someone dying. Sneaking gets brought down. And you see them concentrating down I-2000, which is probably not the greatest idea, but he gets brought down. So, these teams were pretty evenly matched right when this fight started. Right? But, Leshrac suicided, essentially. I mean, he didn't mean to suicide. Oh god, I just almost knocked the microphone over. Sorry about that. But he almost suicided, and then he died. And then we started seeing heroes trickle in one by one, fighting kind of like 3v5 over the entire thing. And we're seeing Complexity with some extremely strong aggressive play, and they're able to shut down the amount when there's lower amounts of heroes. So what I'm trying to say here is when the teams are even, you still need to fight as 5 unless you have someone who's a little bit higher level or something like... Excuse me, you need to fight evenly unless you have someone who is much higher level or something like that. So, what have we learned through the rest of this replay? The rest of the replay basically just shows Sand King getting picked off trying to initiate. And at this point, pot and bottom has to be passive. They can't initiate on these fights because they're at a disadvantage. It doesn't seem like a big one, but it's pretty solid. They actually still have a slight XP lead, but that's going to diminish pretty quickly as a couple more heroes get picked off. And they're going to be forced to turtle at this point. They do have the harder carry right here with Chaos Knight, but when you have a hard carry and you're turtling, you're trying to turtle to make room for somewhere for your carry to get some farm. But at the end of the game, they get sieged, and they're basically not able to take it. What's something that could help them with this? When you're getting sieged and there's people at your base, let's see if we can move forward to find this part. blah, blah, blah. Let's pop it on directed.
Dire's bottom tower has fallen.
Move forward. Basically, when you're getting siege, you need a very strong initiation. One that comes to mind is a Tidehunter. This is why Tidehunter is almost always a great pick, because his ultimate is such a strong AoE stun that you're able to stop almost any push and perhaps even get a small advantage over the people you're playing against. We see there still hasn't really been another big team fight. These teams are afraid to initiate, as they should be. Bottom knows they still can't really fight. Alright, so now we're going to have a little bit of a fight. Oh, not really. Not really a fight. And now we're going to have Complexity take this Roshan. And at this point, they're probably going to start being a little bit more aggressive and moving forward. And here we go. Oh, nope, they're proving me wrong. Now they're going to start moving up here. Oh my god, they're just moving all over the place. They make no sense. But they're slowly picking off a couple heroes at a time. And this is the part that we're starting to talk about here. They chipped away at this tower. And essentially, they're moving forward and going to keep the pressure on. Now, when you keep getting pressured as a sieging team, it makes your carries TP back. It wastes a ton of time. Bottom has the better turtling team, but at the end of this, they're not able to initiate the fights, and Complexity is able to get the jump on them with Invoker, as well as Beastmaster and Vengeful Spirit. So let's go to the recap of today. 1. Don't get in a straight-up team fight with someone when they have more stuff than you. Whether that stuff is gold or experience, do not fight them. Number 2, communicate with your team. If you're the only person that initiates on a team fight, you're going to get killed. It's going to happen. You're going to be really angry at your team. You're going to be that guy that's like, oh no, what are you doing? Why didn't you follow me? But if you didn't tell them you're going in, whether that's with a ping, over Skype, in voice chat, whatever, then they don't know. They might not be paying attention to you. Number 3, do things that can pick off solo heroes when you're behind. Whether that's smoke ganking, which we haven't really talked about. We'll talk about that in probably the next episode. Or just using your ward vision to find heroes who are alone and going over there and killing them with your superior force. 4? I don't remember what point we're on. I think we're on 4. Make sure your entire team initiates. If you're playing from behind, make sure you have your entire team initiating on hopefully somewhere around 2 to 3 players. 5. What's 5? Don't get caught out while you're trying to farm if you're turtling. And 6, always try to pick a team that has at least 1 or 2 extremely strong initiators, whether that's someone like a Sand King or someone like a Tidehunter. It's going to help your team a lot. Those heroes are actually extremely fun to play because you get to cause unbelievable amounts of havoc. Sand King has got a couple of cool little jukes, and Tidehunter has Ravage, which is the single most awesome fight breaker in the game. It's a great counter initiation as well. So that's basically the short version of today's daily, those 6 points. So if you guys want to send me replays, you can do that via Twitter, Facebook, Twitch messaging, whatever. Email me from my site contact, that's whatiship.tv. I would love to find your replays, and the normal time is going to be 3 p.m. Eastern for these bad boys, and you can also subscribe to the YouTube to see any that you miss. But have a great day. Thanks for watching, and insert catchphrase here that I don't have yet. But keep playing Dota. It'll keep getting better. Don't freak out when the team fights start, and you'll be fine. Peace. See you next time.